Hi, my name is Jan and I'm a designer passionate about strategic innovation and about creating new business models that understand how to combine doing good business with doing business for good. And in this video I want to teach you how the circular economy can make your company more resilient, but also I want to show you the most essential skill for business model innovation, which is knowing how to steal. I'll show you how I use analogy thinking to constantly screen new business concepts to explore what new business models are emerging, but also what that could mean for other industries. When you're looking for innovative solutions, it's often easier to look for inspiration outside of your industry instead of direct competitors. Keep an eye open for new companies in different markets but with similar challenges, similar target audiences or similar purposes. And try to find out not just what they do or how they do it, but why their business model is clever. And once you've figured out how they approach the market and why it's clever, the only thing left to do is ask yourself, what would that mean for us? Not should we do the same or can we copy them, but rather, what would it look like if our company did something similar? Would it solve some of our problems as well? Could it improve our services or products? And would it set us apart from the competition? When people look at new companies, they tend to look purely at the products or the technology, at the content. But products and technology, they get outdated really fast. And if you don't know why it works, you won't be able to make it stick. You won't be able to pivot, and ultimately, you won't be able to make a structural difference. You have to learn to understand the context, the culture, the business model, the customer-supplier relations. Try to understand the underlying strategies on a deeper level. So let me show you how the circular economy can help you to build new, innovative and resilient business models. Now, before we dive into circular business models, I want to quickly frame what a circular economy is. The goal of a circular economy is to keep the materials that we use for manufacturing in the loop or in use as long as possible and as high-end as possible. From take, make, waste to take, make, use, and then retake, remake, reuse, retake again and again and again. Now, there are two crucial elements here. First of all, we focus on minimizing waste. We approach waste as a design error. And secondly, the circular economy is more than just a recycling scheme. Take this chair, for example. If I would like to reuse this chair at the end of its life as a new chair, it makes much more sense to keep these legs as they are and upgrade the seating, rather than grinding it all down, melting it, turning it into new metal tubing, and then turning those into new legs for another chair. So, in a circular business model, you are encouraged to first look at the value that you have at hand before storming into the heat, beat, treat logic that we so often think of as the only option that we have. Also, you don't have to wait until the product is used up before you can update or upgrade it. Product service systems are a vital element of a circular economy. And although we will need new technologies and material innovation, it turns out that the biggest leverage for a circular economy are new business models. And that's because business models define how customers interact with products, how repairable things are, how quickly we can adapt to market shifts, and how open our company is to innovation. It's about understanding the context, not just the content. So, in my opinion, the circular economy is above all a strategic challenge aimed at building business models that inherently take effective and efficient use of resources into account. Now, let me show you how the circular economy could help in three different challenges that a lot of industries are faced with. Number one, value chain disruptions. Number two, improving customer retention. And number three, cross-value chain innovation. Probably the most obvious one in this list, since we're talking about dealing with material scarcity, is how to tackle inventory and material insecurities. Our global supply chains turned out to be much more vulnerable than everybody expected. A human steering error in the Suez Canal is enough to disrupt our global economy. And this vulnerability, combined with the default scarcity of non-renewable materials, shows why more and more companies are trying to build in more resilience in their supply chains. Now let's see how the circular economy could help you do just that. One thing you can start looking at is moving from non-renewable to renewable materials. If you're capable of growing your own resources and removing a part of the scarcity from the equation, you'll gain both an innovative edge and you will be able to take some stress off of your supply chain as well. An interesting example of a bio-based material that has the potential to disrupt several markets is mycelium. Basically, mycelium is the root structure of mushrooms that are grown into whatever shape you need it in. And once fully grown, you put it in the oven to sterilize it and you'll end up with a material that looks like this. Now, this material has great insulation values, is fire resistant, it floats, it's quite strong and it's really lightweight. And the applications right now go from packaging over prototyping and even 3D printing. Oh, another cool characteristic, it's completely biodegradable. Imagine receiving a package at home with this material as packaging and protection. After you open the package, you can simply break this thing up in smaller pieces, throw it in your garden, and just wait for a couple of days for it to break down and improve your soil. Another great strategy to take the pressure off your supply chain is by using trash as your material input, better known as upcycling. And one of my personal favorites about upcycling is the story of ECONYL. Nylon is a great material to recycle without loss of quality. And the people at ECONYL discovered that fishing nets, which are often made of 100% nylon, have a great upcycling potential. When fishing nets get tangled up or ripped up, they are often discarded and stay floating around in the ocean, ghost fishing and severely damaging the ocean's ecosystem. The team of ECONYL dives up these fishing nets and transforms them into new nylon yarn that can be used everywhere. Needless to say, the industry loves the story, since they can also use it in their own marketing strategy. And so the more the upcycled yarn gets taken up by the market, the more structurally ECONYL can capture these waste streams before they end up in the oceans, but they can also start looking at industry waste streams, etc. They've basically turned a material that was worthless and damaging the oceans into a very valuable resource, cleaning up the oceans while scaling their business. So ask yourself, how could switching to bio-based materials or upcycling waste streams take stress off your value chain? Now, the second item on my list is customer retention. And this is another big challenge for most companies. Dealing with customer frustration, scaling up the value customers get, and keeping everybody happy. Now let me show you two pretty easy circular business strategies that you could use to tap more into customer retention. Everyone knows the frustration when a product all of a sudden stops working, or it breaks down in a way that you can't repair. Or even worse, you've just bought a new phone and 2 months later there's this new really cool feature that your phone does not have and never will have. And all of a sudden this new device is outdated and there's nothing you can do about it. Now this is called planned obsolescence. It's a strategy to make sure that your products fail at some point so people are forced to buy a new one. Fairphone is a company on a mission to source every material in your smartphone in a fair way. They challenge the model of planned obsolescence by actively supporting their customers to repair their phones, but also update them with spare parts. If the new Fairphone has a better camera than the one that you have, you can order the camera component online, get a dummy-proof guide on how to change it with your old camera, and you're good to go. And even better, if the old camera still worked, you could probably sell it off to someone whose camera broke down and they'll be able to replace that part as well. So the result of all of this, well, on a circular economy level, less products that work perfectly fine get dumped, but also on a business strategic level, Fairphone is creating a community of customers with vastly better product experiences who often become the brand evangelists who then become the main source of marketing by sharing their own stories. So offering spare parts is not just good for sustainability, it's good for business. Another way to link customers more to your brand is by tapping into the strategy of residual value, making sure that your product is still worth something once it's used up or worn down. And if you, as the manufacturer, are willing to pay that residual value, that's an even stronger signal about how much you trust your own products. If you made sure that you've created your products in such a way that you can easily use parts of old products by tapping into modular design, using mono materials, etc., that's again a win for your company's baseline and an improved customer experience. So, how could you use the circular economy to relieve customer frustration and tie customers more to your brand. Now, finally, let's move on to the third and the final challenge, and probably the biggest challenge for every company, and that is innovation, or put bluntly, how to stay relevant. Right? The world is constantly changing and products get outdated faster than ever before. Staying relevant and staying on top of your game was never easy, but it's getting increasingly more difficult. Building in flexibility and innovation as a structural part of your business model is not just a good idea. It's essential if you want to survive in times of disruption. Now, the circular economy needs an open innovation approach that allows for input from the entire value chain. Ideally, it should result in your company being much more purpose-driven, but also more flexible, have a faster pace of innovation, and, maybe paradoxically, have a much more structural role within your value chain. One strategy that you could look at is using your R&D process as a market validation process, where your far-out innovations can trickle down into your mainstream offer more quickly. A great example of this is the future craft of Adidas. What started as a design exercise to come up with a shoe that would fit perfectly within a circular business model quickly turned into a very interesting dialogue between researchers, designers, and clients about how to make the most sustainable shoe ever. And it all started with the idea of exploring mono materials for a new shoe. If Adidas could create a shoe where each element was made from the same material, they could easily take back these shoes after use, shred them to tiny pieces and reuse the materials again and again and again and again. So, after creating a prototype for this, they gave the shoes to a testing audience to get their feedback on it, and the response was so good, they upped the ambition to not only make it a closed-loop shoe, but to also make it with the lowest carbon footprint possible, while at the same time exploring new business models and keeping the quality at a top level. And quickly the shoe became a medium for continuous feedback of clients, experimentation with new user models, and a general boost for brand positioning and exploring the field of sustainability. Instead of trying to come up with the best idea on your own, launching it and hoping for a first-time right miracle, you might as well embrace the fact that innovation is never done. And including the people who will use your product in the design phase is probably a good idea. And this way your product becomes a platform for innovation. Evolutionary biologists have found that most species on our planet survive not by fighting each other, but by cooperating in a way that both species benefit from it. So don't think of innovation as the struggle for survival in the hope to beat your competitor. Rather think of it as the snuggle for survival, where the companies who know how to team up often win the race. Alright, so that's great and all, but what does this mean for your business? For your company? Well, the essence of business design is understanding how to steal effectively. What I would like you to do is look at these cases and business models from an analogy thinking point of view. So below this course you can find a very simple tool as a downloadable PDF that can help you with just that. Analogy thinking basically goes like this. You look at a case and on the left side of the tool you fill in why the case is smart, what they did differently. And then you forget about the case and you only look at what you wrote down and ask yourself, how might we use that in our company? Oh, by the way, did you notice how I framed the reflection you should have? I did not say, should we do this? Because you could simply say yes or no to that question. And a yes or no question is a terrible brainstorming question. So reframe your thoughts as, how might we? And go from there. So when you're looking at a new case, don't just start reflecting immediately on what this means for your company. First, start by looking at the case itself. Take the left side of the tool and fill in, why is it smart? What did they do? What do I find inspiring in this case? And you don't have to think about your business model at this point. Just look at somebody else's product and business model and try to go, that's clever. Outside looking in is always easier. Once you've done the left side, it's time to move to the right. Forget about the case you were looking at. The only thing that matters now is, what could this mean for us? If you wrote down active engagement with customers in the beginning of innovation, on the left, your brain should think, how might we do that? And there's no right or wrong in this exercise, there's only ideas. So if you want to harvest the best ideas in your team, don't just ask them for their ideas. Select inspiring cases, give them this template, and let them fill it in from left to right. And basically, that's all there is to it. Every time you encounter any product or service, try to go, why is this smart? How might we use that? And this is where it becomes really interesting. After a while, you start noticing patterns, and you'll find much more comfort in implementing these patterns because you've seen them used and work before. So I'm very curious to hear how you use this little mind hack in your company. And if you want to push innovation further and explore possible business models and new innovative value propositions for your company, don't hesitate to reach out. If you want more inspiration, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, and I hope to hear from you soon.